Welcome back. I'm Connie Kolosey, Director of Media, Text, and Digital Learning. And today I'm talking with Laura Woods, who is our project coordinator for library media for Pinellas County. And we're talking about a new movement that's across the country, both in public libraries and in school libraries, called Makerspace. We're speaking with Susan Oliveto, who is a teacher at Pinellas Secondary, and she has gotten very excited about the prospect of Makerspace, and she came to Ms. Woods and asked you if she could do a training for her teachers.
Right. We have been working on all the media centers to become more 21st century and have maker spaces in all of them. And Susan got so excited because she absolutely loved this idea of collaboration with her staff. So she wanted to train her teachers so they would know better how to work with her and the kids when it came to incorporating the media center and what it had to offer with what they were teaching.
All right, well, we have some video of Ms. Oliveto's work with the teachers at Pinellas Secondary, so let's take a look.
This is our new Makerspace Center, and it is growing. It's a work in progress. We are going to be moving into more technological Makerspace projects. I've got a grant that I've written for the Pinellas Education Foundation for brush bots. This is where we cannibalize a toothbrush. We cut off the head of a toothbrush, and then we attach a tiny vibrating motor and then attach it to a power source. Then the kids can kind of design them a little bit too and decorate them. And then they just kind of bzzz all over the table, so we can have brush bot races. But then I wanted to further incorporate that, some art, turn it STEM into STEAM by taking those brush bots and then dipping them into paint, different colored paints, and then having them go around. I have a little frame there. And so we'll have some technology-inspired artwork. Yeah, so I'm just having fun with this. So that's what I'm hoping for you guys to do, just have fun and explore these concepts. Okay, but it is your time to be challenged. We have 3 teams here, and your challenge is your STEM Straw Tower Challenge. What is the tallest tower your team can build using only 12 straws and 12 inches of tape? Are there any questions? You may begin. Do you see what I mean? You guys are totally ignoring me. Do you need me at this point? They can use their 12 inches of tape to help secure their base, your base, to the table. Or if you want to make it more challenging, you can say, no, you cannot use the tape to secure it. It has to be freestanding without tape. Yeah. So it depends on your students, and if you want to give them that heightened challenge, do that. See, this team actually drew a picture of their ideas and did a sketch before they started. These 2 teams just went ahead and started working. Oh, you did this a sketch? Oh, yes.
A very mild.
A mild sketch, okay. Mm-hmm.
So we do, I think it works.
High five. Once I gave you the initial instructions, and I really like to keep instructions simple and quick, you know, so they can get right into the activity. You really didn't need me, you know, to do anything. Sometimes maybe if I'm doing more of the robotic things, and if I want to do, like, say, for example, the brush bot example activity, they'll probably ask more questions, and then I'll try to say, well, what do you think? How do you think you could make it go? But in this particular case, it's pretty inquiry-based, where you don't even need the teacher. You get the challenge, and you're kind of inherently motivated to build the tower because it's fun, right? And I saw the kids doing it. It's like I could see the brain synapses just sparking, you know. And not like you have to do this every single day in your classroom. You can't, because you have your, but it's a great way to get them engaged. And then we're going to have a piece later on about levels of engagement. And when they're doing this, they're at their highest level of engagement. And we're going to talk about that. I've been very good. I've been teaching for over 20 years, and I've been very good at having this strategic compliance in my classroom. When my principal walks into my classroom, he's always seeing my students at their desks, writing, reading, behaving, doing what they were supposed to be doing. And that's just great, because it's, you know, my evaluations are nice, you know. However, when I looked at this levels of engagement, which I'm going to share with you in a little bit later, that they were at strategic compliance. But there's one level above that. When I did this particular activity, or when I did special activities, like when Miss Q did her CSI activity, it took it through the roof. Okay, when she did CSI and she had the bodies and the crime scene tape and all that, she had like 100% engagement. But we can't do that every single class, but we can do it more frequently. And imagine all of you as mini ambassadors doing this in your classroom, sharing it with your colleagues. And if each teacher maybe threw in an activity like this that tied in, embedded with their content, and kids would be experiencing it at least once a week, or maybe every other week in a different classroom. Another thing from what Ms. Simmons said is, how about if they measure the straws? Okay, how long are they? You have 12 straws. So theoretically, they can do the math, how tall theoretically could you build it given the amount of product? What's the highest that you can't go any further? Because this one is finite, because you have finite materials, right? So in there they can do the math, what's the tallest it could be? And then how tall can you get to that when you're in your actual construction? So they're kind of doing the measuring and the math and the possibilities.
Is it somewhere, like, will it be a set location in a particular school where teachers come through and bring their students, so the environment is already set up with just random materials?
Yes.
And then, you know, they decide what to do within that space. So it's not something that's in every classroom, but a space design.
It's a relatively new movement. If you go to your public libraries, maybe Largo Public Library, Clearwater Public Library, or some, not so much in public schools yet, in some of the bookstores, they're building makerspaces. And it is exactly that. And my original definition of what a makerspace is in public libraries, it is a place where people can come in, and if you'll see here, I've got random pieces, odds and ends. I have a flotsam and jetsam box and straws and erector sets and some tools. And they can come in here and just come and play, tinker, create, invent. That's what a traditional maker space is. And then there's all the elements, like and there's a little thing called Little Bits that I want, but it's like $150 for one kit. But I really want some of these for our kids, because they're connecting circuits and with switches and power switches and dimmers and alarms. And I love that, so I want to get that piece into it. So I'm going to get it a little bit more with the brush bots as well, with the tiny vibrating motors. But at Pinellas Secondary School, what I did is I created a space. This quadrant of the Media Center is our physical makerspace where classes come in. So I'm bringing classes in to complete these activities. But also, a teacher could very easily have a little makerspace corner in their classroom. And that's why I want to inspire you, to do this, because this is all done from the Dollar Tree thus far. And you can have like a little makerspace corner where there are activities like this. I think the biggest downside, I believe, would be financial, if I were to say. My makerspace I created so far, as you've seen it, solely with my teacher lead money, using the Dollar Tree. So I filled my baskets with straws and popsicle sticks and tape, scissors, and some tools, and the pipe cleaners. And it's been wonderful. I even got some erector sets, little mini erector sets, and Legos, which is, again, having the kids build and follow instructions step by step, to create and build things. I want to take it a step further and create, for example, a brush bots, where the students create tiny mini robots that vibrate and move around, and where we cannibalize toothbrushes, but that involves mini vibrating motors that cost money. So right now I'm in the process of writing a request for our Title I, because we are a Title I school. I also have a grant out on the Pinellas Education Foundation. And so, you know, things like that to get the funding. So funding is a big key. But at the same time, I wanted to demonstrate to my teachers here that we can do it for pennies a day with something as simple as straws and masking tape. So it can, any level, and you're still challenging students.
I do have some business partners in the area that I will work with to see if I can get some funding to help fund this initiative.
But I don't want anybody to get it confused with crafts, okay? Now, because that, then you don't really have the STEM piece. But like, for example, when I was creating this, and I had my sign-in sheet so far, you know, I have my students come in, they sign in, the classes come in and sign in. I mean, this is really cute. I have the pen usually in here, the pen disappeared, you know. But I created like a little design for a clipboard. Okay, and this is nice, this is creative, it's fun. I was making, so I'm using my hands to create it, and I'm gonna do this activity with kids, but that's not necessarily a STEM challenge, it's more like a craft or art project, correct? So my being, you know, the teacher, the English teacher, and loving science, I really wanted to incorporate, blend the two. So I wanted our lessons when students come in here to make it STEM. So there's actually a learning going on. You know, there's learning going on in something like this, but not at the same level. Not at the same level. I want to add that little bit of rigor and that critical thinking into the classroom activity.
I think it's a good fit for my school because of the population I deal with. I get students, we're an alternative school, and most of our students, 95% of our kids, you have to have that hands-on activities, and we are in a combination with their academics. And when Ms. Oliveto brought she wrote a grant, matter of fact, the kids are doing the hands-on activity. It was just excellent. I mean, and the kids just bought into it. So, and even so we have some other classes on campus where the students are doing the hands-on activities. So that's one of the reasons I approved it.
I believe very sincerely that it is going to really ignite the spark of interest for our students. The student who comes to the classroom and puts their head down, the student who comes to the classroom who's strategically compliant and takes the notes and does the assignment, but is just willing to do that because that's what he's supposed to do or she's supposed to do. I believe for the student, this is going to have them come into the classroom and have a little bit of more energy and a little bit more heart and soul and spirit into the activity that they're doing in the classroom. For the teacher, really the same thing, because when I first tested this out with our students here at Pinellas Secondary, I thought, okay, I'm just doing something fun, a new activity. It's tied in with STEM. They're going to learn about this. They're going to be collaborating, because that was a big thing. I want my students to be speaking and listening and engaging with each other on a focused topic. And when I brought in my first class and I saw what was happening, it was beyond my expectations. So I got even more excited about it. So I think it's also, it put a spark, a jump into my step because my students were so engaged.
Wow, she's excited about this.
Yes, she is.
And you know, the thing is, every educator comes to this with a desire to impact the lives of students, really.
Absolutely.
And so when you see that happening, it really puts a spark in her.
It puts a spark in all of us to be able to reach these kids that sometimes it's very difficult to reach them or engage them, and yet you see these kids that are not doing well come in to these activities and nose down, totally engaged and successful and glowing. And you know you've hit the right spot.
Well, she mentioned resources being a bit of a challenge. What are we doing as a district to support teachers and media specialists that are working on this?
Well, this year we were able to use some of our referendum dollars, and we purchased for every media center a set of the Osmo Wonder and Genius kits and an Ozobot, which is a little bitty robot that will teach the children how to code. Now, the Ozobot is more on the coding side, and then when they're done learning actual coding, then they will go into something a little more difficult in Ozo blocking, which will allow the kids to learn how to directionally code, not just give commands. With the Osmo, it hits math, reading, science, geometry, language arts, art, music, because all of the pieces that the Osmo comes with engages the children in different areas. So the media specialist can collaborate with the teachers, find out what they're doing with their content areas, and then set up the Osmo kits or a station to go along with whatever they're doing in that content area, and then they give them a real-world project to solve.
Well, how will the media specialist be trained in how to do this? I mean, this is cutting-edge stuff.
Well, we are finally able to train our media specialists for PLCs during the day, and so they'll be coming in November to receive their training on the Ozobots and the Osmos, and we're also going to give them some guidance on how you collaborate with the teachers and content, what directions they can take, and then how to set up their different areas. It's going to be a big training on that day.
So you have, Pinellas Secondary is not the only school that is working on this. Who are some other schools that are working?
Oh my gosh, we've got quite a few. Lakewood, Largo, High School, Boca Ciega, these are all media centers that have finally stepped up and they have become 21st century libraries. I've got Bel Air Elementary. She has created an amazing maker area, plus she has revamped her whole library to be 21st century. We've also got Maximo Elementary, Cypress Woods, and the middle schools, Tyrone Middle School has got collaboration stations working. He's working on setting up a maker area. All the levels are working at stepping up their pace and becoming 21st century. And they're being backed by their administrators who really see the value in this. What is this?
I also added a charging station for phones and iPads to our circulation desk as well.
High school kids, they get all the bells and whistles. Something else that I understand your 21st Century Learning Commons has now is a student lounge area. It's just one of the collaboration pieces that we want in all of our libraries. Tell us about this very cool, busy place.
Well, when I moved the circulation desk, that kind of opened up this area for students to come in and kind of hang out. They eat in here. This is an eating area. This is the only spot that they're allowed to eat in. And it allows them to do some work. Teachers can do copying. It's just kind of an overall area. They have access to the magazines here. And it's been wildly popular, especially at lunchtime. It's been crazy in here.
This group of kids is working on some of our Makerspace boxes. During our book fair, I purchased anything that I thought looked like it would be interesting and fun. They're working right here on a circuits kit, putting the circuits together and figuring it out on their own. They've got a book there that tells them what to do, but for the most part, they just have to figure it out.
That's part of Makerspace technology.
It's a little messy, but that's part of being creative.
This whole area is just amazing, I have to tell you. What do you call this and what are they doing?
This is our iPad lounge. This used to be a computer lab. It used to have tables, big tables and desktop computers, and I moved those into a classroom and then moved the iPad lounge that was in that classroom into here because I felt this was a little more flexible for the library. The kids, this is our primary lab, so K1 and 2 come in and they work with the iPads mostly for ST Math, iStation, that kind of thing. But sometimes they do, another group that we have in here is doing action research. So they're going to be coming in, first graders doing action research, coming in doing some projects and research.
So how does this Osbots and this whole Makerspace concept still do fit back in and tie back in with the text? Because all those media centers still have books to read.
Yes, because they can use the language arts piece, and as they're reading about, there's literature for math, there's literature for science, and that all ties back in with the STEM or STEAM, because those pieces then, the kids will then come back and reflect. They go back to the classroom when they've finished a project, and they write. They reflect on what they did, what they learned, what mistakes they made, because we all learn through mistakes. And then how did they succeed? And all of this writing just supports what we're doing with the FSA and getting the children to be more text-based and more contextually complicated.
Now you mentioned a couple acronyms there, and in education we are worse than the Army with acronyms.
We are.
And you mentioned STEM and STEAM, and so just speak English for us, please.
Okay, so STEM is a combination of science and technology, engineering and math, whereas STEAM is adding art and music into the mix as well as language. And that's where the kids can blend everything that they've learned in all those areas together to solve real-world problems.
Thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to see how this grows in the district, and I appreciate your leadership.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today on Digital Learning, where we have learned about the Makerspace movement. And join us next time for more on Digital Learning.